Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So I'm not gonna do any, you wanna get up there, Missy? I'm not gonna do any like history or anything today because I want to talk about something that actually just came to my attention. So I got a text from Lyle this morning. He's like, hey, what do you think about that Prime driver that's missing? And I was like, oh, I don't know anything about it. So he told me that this driver, Prime driver, went missing at the Smithfield facility in Northeast Maryland. And so then I was like, oh, well, I was just there the other day and I did notice some posters that were in the, like where you check in at the gate. But I looked at it, I was like, well, that must be somebody that works here, because the posters were actually put on the windows facing outward. And I think the idea was the drivers would see them pulling up, except drivers, like, you're not going to be looking out the window. You're probably going to be facing forward because you're pulling up to the gate, and when you stop, you're stopped past where those posters were. So I didn't realize that this was a Prime driver, so I did a little digging, and it's not hard to find if you Google. And so this, by the way, Smithfield's in Northeast Maryland. That's in Cecil County, Maryland. It's the county right up against Delaware, on the northeast corner of Maryland, and Delaware and Pennsylvania, like on two sides. And so if you just Google missing truck drivers Maryland or Cecil County, Maryland, you probably find the article. But I wanted to, as I told Lyle, I said, you know, I want to amplify this. And let me just say that the gentleman's name is Jason Marcus Pearson. He's 42 years old. He's an African-American guy. He is, I think he's about 5'8", weighs about 240. He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he's been missing since I think around June 13th. And, you know, other than the fact that the dude's missing, what really kind of bothers me about this whole case is that today was really the first I heard about it, and I didn't hear about it from the company that the guy drives for. In other words, you know, as I've said before, the safety department doesn't care about driver safety. They only care about trucks being in accidents. Here's a guy who's freaking missing, right? The police are involved, but yet Prime wasn't the ones who notified this guy's wife or the police that they had a driver that was like missing, right? Prime has not, that I know of, put out any information about this in like a press release or anything like that. His wife has been doing all the work. And, you know, it just goes to show you that your personal safety does not really matter to the trucking company you work for, because I'm sure they were plenty happy to just go send a tow truck and tow this guy's truck away, which, by the way, his truck was found with 2 cell phones, the truck keys, his ID, his wallet, all that stuff still in the truck. Now, you know, Lyle said, well, what do you think happened? And, you know, there are several possibilities, but, you know, what I would say is this. And he was apparently just parked waiting for a load. It said his tractor trailer, but I don't know that whether he was bobtail or not, because typically if you're waiting for a load at that place, they'll let you just drop the trailer and you can drive around, park on the street, or you could go to a truck stop, whatever, without dragging a trailer everywhere. But here's the thing, you know, I'm kind of a creature of habit. Now, I know not everybody is, but I'm kind of a creature of habit. And even when I get out of my truck to like go slide the tandems or go do my trailer inspection, or even just to go, like, honestly, if I'm at a truck stop and I don't want to walk all the way inside to go to the bathroom and I want to walk just to the back of the truck and pee in the grass, I still take my key, at least one of my keys, I have two, but at least one of my keys, and almost always my phone, right? Like, Brittany and I are kind of just vegging today because we don't have to deliver till tomorrow. So we're out here at one of my secret train watching spots in Illinois. And I took Beatrice for a walk a little bit ago because there's like this grassy area along the tracks here in this, we're in Verona, Illinois, this little town. And you know, I didn't take my wallet, but I took a key because I locked the truck because Brittany was in the truck, and I took my phone. It is really weird that a guy, like, even if somebody, you know, like I told Lyle, you don't know what people do in their spare time, right? This area, if you've never been there, is not densely populated. It's an industrial area that's kind of out on its own. And while the US 40 corridor, which is where this street is off of, in the past, because it runs basically, that's the old road from Baltimore to Philadelphia before the interstate was there. It runs parallel to I-95. Over the years, because I've lived in Maryland and or the Baltimore region since like 1997 when I first got stationed at the Naval Academy. But, you know, over the years there have been like, you know, typically sex workers that have, you know, been hurt or killed or vanished along the I-40 corridor north of Baltimore. But my recollection is that that was always a little bit farther south or maybe west, if you look on a map, from where this facility is located. This is not an area that anybody would just be like driving through. You know, it's just kind of weird. But even if somebody came up and was like, hey sailor, you want to go have a good time, and he went and got in a car, wouldn't he at least take his wallet, because assuming you were paying for something, take his keys, take his phone? You know, so that's weird. And then I was like, well, maybe, you know, I kind of said to Lyle, I feel like maybe, because there are some dense woods in that area, he might have just gotten out to go to the bathroom and, you know, fallen down a ravine and gotten badly injured or something. The other thing is that, and I don't know what kind of truck he had, but I have locked myself once out of a Freightliner. I know other people have locked themselves out of Freightliners, because Freightliners, you don't need to put the key in like on a Peterbilt or KW. You got to put the key in. You can't lock both doors with one of the doors open. Like, the door that's open will not lock, you know, with like the electric locks, or even if you push the button down. You gotta put a key into it to get the door to lock, right? It has an anti-lockout feature. And so if he had a Freightliner, it's very possible he might have gotten out to go to the bathroom and inadvertently locked himself out, and then was trying to go, you know, because he had nothing on him, was trying to go get some help. But, you know, unless he vanished like on his own, like fell down a ravine type of thing, fell in, you know, there's some construction around there. I mean, somebody could fall into a pit and, you know, nobody noticed it for quite some time. You know, it happens. But anyway, if you're watching this and you have a way of communicating on social media, you know, just kind of like put this information out there. Like I said, this gentleman's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. His wife has gone down to Maryland twice, or 3 times maybe, to meet with the police, put out flyers, etc. You know, but I feel like there's a solution to every problem. And, you know, I actually watch a lot of those TV mysteries and stuff. And, but, you know, it does, there's a few things that are really confusing about this, and I will say that, you know, it's shameful that Prime has not promulgated this to every flippin' driver, you know, because you'd think you got a driver missing, that would be like a driver safety thing, but apparently it's not. You know, apparently you could get vanish, you could drown, get murdered, whatever, and as long as the truck's in good shape, we don't have an issue at Prime. So, you know, and if anybody at Prime's got a problem with what I'm saying, prove me wrong. You know, do something about it. Prime's a huge company, right? Prime has a security department, for God's sakes. You know, send some of those chuckleheads to Maryland and start combing the woods. You know, tell them to put on their freaking big girl panties and get out there and get some freaking poison ivy and stickers, and you know, get whipped by some bushes and go find, you know, see if you can find this guy. You know, so anyway, that's that. Somebody asked me about, you know, they said, hey, we hear a lot about PSD, we hear a lot about TNT, all that stuff, but they said, hey, you came to Prime as an experienced driver. What was that like? What was that process like? So I wanted to just talk about that. It was, and you know, I want to preface this by saying it was, you know, it was over 2 years ago, so they needed all the drivers they could get. I'm not saying that I was necessarily low-hanging fruit or anything, but you know, I did an application. I had talked to people at Prime, like recruiters, before that, but then I also talked to, you know, Lyle and stuff like that, and you know, I did an application. I went through that process, had to answer a couple of extra questions or whatever that they had. And then they set me up for orientation at Pittston because it's closest to my house. I really didn't want to go to Pittston. I actually wanted to go to Springfield because I knew that I was going to, I actually thought I wanted to do a lease purchase, but I was hoping to get a used lease purchase, like one that somebody just walked away from. So that's the reason I wanted to go to Springfield, because I just felt like there would be more opportunities, there would be a greater selection of trucks and stuff. But anyway, you know, they say, no, you got to go to Pittston. So I go to Pittston. I think I went on a Wednesday. They put me up in the Holiday Inn. And in fact, my wife and Brittany went with me and just stayed in the hotel room for the first... Did you guys stay overnight? Britt? Huh? Did you guys stay overnight when I first went to Prime at the hotel? I can't remember. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. But anyways, then I was up there, you know, so I went up the night before. I started orientation on Wednesday. And the thing with me is my original urinalysis was diluted, I think because I had just consumed one of those, the big Arizona iced tea, like the green tea with honey or whatever. So they said my sample was diluted and I needed to go do another one. So I did another one the day I left GP Transco, but I was still waiting for Prime to get the results back when I went to orientation. But I went to orientation. They set up, you know, all the CBTs. So I had to do all of that stuff. I had to, you know, just do a regular orientation. Like I immediately went on the simulator. It was really bizarre, and I totally didn't expect it, because every company that I had been at subsequent to my first truck driving job, so when I had gone to Schugel, when I went to GP Transco, in orientation, they would take you and put you in an actual truck with an actual trailer and make you drive around, kind of a mini CDL test. They would also make you park and show them you could back a trailer into a tight spot. So I was a little surprised that at Prime, they didn't do any kind of test like that. They were just like, yeah, get on this simulator. And I didn't like the simulator, it made me feel nauseous, but I got through it. You know, I just went really slow because I'd never been on one of those. So I did that. You know, I went back to my hotel room, did the CBTs. Then I was just waiting to get my urinalysis back. I did the Prime safety class. I don't know if I went through a version of the logs class or not. I might have, but I don't remember. I know we had the safety class, and I know I did all the CBTs. Did some paperwork, nothing too hard. And then my urinalysis came back, so I was cleared on that. And then I think on that Friday, I was totally finished, and I was just waiting to get a truck assignment. And I had been assigned, and the other thing that had happened is I'd been assigned a fleet manager, but I think that person was in Pittston. But because of Lyle, and actually Lyle was at Pittston when I was going through orientation, I was like, do you like your fleet manager? He's like, yeah. I was like, give me the guy's number. So I called up the fleet manager. I'm like, hey man, if you put me in your fleet, I'll make you some money. So he did. And again, that was back when everything was kind of loosey-goosey, right? Like, now they don't like doing that stuff. They want to, you know, they don't want to let people change fleets. They don't want to let people pick who they train with, etc. So on Friday, I got offered a truck. I went out and inspected it. And it was really the only option. Like, the blue Freightliner was the only option. But I was like, all right, it's fine. You know, it was older than the truck I had been driving at GP, but I was comfortable with it. And I went out, inspected it. One of the first things I noticed was there was a crack in the windshield. There were a few other issues that I wanted fixed. So I said, hey, I'm gonna, you know, I'm not gonna accept this truck yet. And so what happened was I took it to the shop, or I took the, you know, the keys back to the shop, gave him the punch list, and I said, hey, I'll be back on Monday, because it was Friday afternoon by this point. And I said, I'll just, you know, I went and told the leasing guy or whatever there at Pittston, I said, I'll be back on Monday, and hopefully they got everything fixed and I can get on the road. And so that's what I did. I went home for the weekend, came back on Monday. The windshield was fixed. They had fixed the other stuff that I wanted fixed, and then I just, you know, reviewed the lease, signed the lease, and then my fleet manager, by the end of that day, I had a load. So, you know, it took a little bit of extra time, but it wasn't a big deal because I was, you know, I did want to get on the road, but I wasn't like super worried about it. The other thing is that when I came back to Pittston, I brought like a lot of my stuff with me. So I didn't need to get dispatched to go back home to like put stuff in my truck. I was ready to just go on the road. And then I bobtailed up to Hazleton, picked up a loaded trailer, and I took that over to New Jersey to Costco the next morning. And it was a pretty good paying load. It was candy. So I hope that answers some questions. I don't, you know, I didn't have a lot of like anything super crazy. And I will say that I did notice, because I didn't really know a lot about how Prime operated, but I did notice that some of the people that were, quote, they were like coming back to Prime, I think, they were not going to be A seats like I was. You know, I think one guy was like, because I heard him talking about B seats, and so I think maybe somebody hadn't finished TNT, or maybe they didn't have enough over-the-road experience wherever they were coming from. Maybe they only did, you know, 3 months at Western Express or something. You know, when I came to Prime, I had been driving. Well, I came to Prime in the month that I had my CDL for 2 years, and I had a lot. I mean, relatively speaking, I had a lot of miles under my belt because I ran a lot. So I probably by that time had, I'm going to say, well over 200,000 miles. Maybe I wouldn't doubt that I had maybe like close to 250. I've never really kept track of that. I think it's a useless metric, but I know trucking companies, they like to put stickers on trucks or stuff like that. I'm like, because honestly, one of the best truck handlers I've ever seen was a guy that maybe only had about, I don't even think this guy had 1 million miles. He'd been driving for a long time. He could back up a truck with no hands and stuff, you know, and he was like a superior truck driver when it comes to like backing up, but he had never really been like super over the road. He'd been like a regional guy, or, you know. So anyway, I hope that answers some questions. It wasn't a hard process, but I don't know if Prime's accepting people right now. You'd have to talk to recruiting. I don't know. I know I'd heard that they didn't want people, they weren't really looking for people that had come out of driving schools. And I don't know if they're looking for, you know, if they're taking in experienced people. I hope they are, because I would think that would be not too, you know, that's not a lot of heavy lifting for them. And it does seem like there's enough inventory of trucks right now. You know, there's a lot of trucks on the market. If you go by like a Ritchie Brothers site, auction site, some of those have hundreds of trucks and trailers. In fact, there's one just a little bit north of here over in Morris, Illinois, that has a lot of equipment on the lot right now. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Keep an eye out for Mr. Pearson, and you know, I am gonna send a message to Prime Safety and ask why I had to hear about this from another truck driver. You know, and like I said, I don't give a crap what Prime Safety thinks. They're not doing their jobs. And you know, the crazy thing about these safety departments is they're all ex-cops. Not all of them probably, but a lot of them are ex-cops. You'd think that somebody would go, hey, we got a driver that just frickin' vanished. Maybe we should do something about it, you know? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.